All right, I'd like to call to order the Thursday, October 12th, 2023 meeting of the City of Monona Sustainability Committee. Thor, do you have the roll, please?
Yep, all set.
Fantastic. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the June 8th and the September 14th committee meetings?
I'll move.
Is there a second to Alder Bernstein?
Second.
Seconded by Sue. So at this point, before we vote, are there any amendments, any changes, anything that was misrepresented that we need to clarify?
Yes, I need to, I've talked to Thor already about some changes in one of the things that was presented last week, and just to kind of clean up that. So, but we're all set, I think.
I appreciate that.
You want to just give a really brief description of what it is, so that they know what the changes they're voting on.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it was just the what was the one here? Where is it?
So it was the last paragraph on item 5B, right?
5B.
Of September 14th.
September 14th. Oh, there, and that's the problem. I'm looking at the wrong one. 5B, yes.
It was a while ago. This was way
not
back in
5B,
June.
okay.
Yeah.
About the UW-Madison class, right?
Oh, that's June. Wait a minute, what? September meeting?
Yep, the September meeting.
Finally, okay, no wonder it doesn't look like 5B. Okay. Oh, yes, just that the way the two categories that were recommended in the way of targeting, more specifically different audiences in Monona. It wasn't just an age-based one. It was more focused on people who have lived in the community for a long time, which tends to go along with older age, but people who have been around, have figured out what to do on their properties, already know a lot of the things, and targeting them more specifically for getting into higher level steps, like really reducing water flow to nothing off their properties, using rain barrels, whatever, and doing composting or more advanced things. The idea was stepping people into it, and for populations that are either not inclined to yard work or haven't had any experience yet and are just getting to target the other, just getting your leaves off the street.
I must interrupt. So what is it, what changes would you like us to vote on? So we are in the process of voting on your amendment to the.
Oh, just to sort of make that more specific distinction about what the two groups were.
Okay.
And how
I won't.
we're targeting those two groups separately.
Okay.
And what it was sort of to clarify the rationale for those two groups and why they targeted, why the university groups recommended that we target them specifically.
Susan, I won't make you do this, but in any other, like in council, we would need you to specifically say, here's the amendment so that we can vote on it. But I know that we don't have such strict operating procedures here all the time, but in any case, is there a motion to accept the amendments to the agenda as recommended by Susan?
I'll move.
And a second?
Yeah,
I'll second.
A second, and all in favor of adopting the amended minutes?
Aye.
Fabulous. Okay, motion passes. Sorry, Susan.
No,
I didn't
that's okay.
mean to cut you off, but I was just at a meeting just this week. It was the Landmarks Committee meeting, and we were looking at minutes from years and years ago as part of our meeting packet. So sometimes when I kind of brush off like the importance of minutes, a couple months go by and I'm reminded of the importance of the good minutes. So thank you, Thor. I know that takes a lot of time to put those minutes together. That's no small task. All right, so in that case, we've got those minutes approved, and let's just move on then to the next item of business, which would be just to look at some unfinished business about the leaf management project update. Before we started recording, I'll just briefly review some of the things so that we've got it captured. So we have received 1,000 bookmarks from Dane County. They have a leaf-free streets program, which is really well underway. They also had door hangers, and we felt we didn't really need those. These flyers were free of charge. So that doesn't take any hit on our budget. We've also received some yard signs that people can take and put out. They're different from the homegrown yard signs, the blue and green yard signs that we created many years ago. They're more of a, I don't know how to describe it, more of an ornate decoration. There's like a woman raking leaves, and it's a nice message about keeping leaves out of the street. Whereas the blue and green yard signs that we created here are more specifically about adopting storm drains. But nonetheless, we've got those. Thor spoke to our ordinance officer, and he agreed to, you know what, Thor, maybe you should explain so I don't misstate.
Yeah, John is our code enforcer. He's out and about in the field every day, and he has some door hangers that he got from the county a couple of years ago that have leaf management tips on them. So he has distributed a few in the past, but he's gonna make it more of a priority this year. When he sees folks who have piled leaves too close to the curb or actually piled them in the streets, he'll put a hanger on their door. Just, you know, we don't wanna, we're not gonna be really strict with it, and not like if we see leaves in your street at a, like in your curb, we're gonna distribute a hanger. Just, you know, if someone has placed a bunch of leaves in the street because they you know, think that's what they're supposed to do, we'll let them know that they should keep them on their lawn.
Thank you, because it is just nice to have that friendly reminder of the rules, I guess you'd say.
I have a question too. Does that include brush piles also? Because that's been a big problem in my neighborhood.
Right, we're just giving an update on the leaf
Yeah.
management program right now.
It's dangerous. I mean, I've seen
It
bicycles
is,
go
it
by
is.
at night and, you know, one little branch sticking way out here, you know.
Yeah,
it's just like,
this will just be leaves, but
okay.
you know, I reach out
Whatever.
to code enforcement. When you see
Yeah.
issues, that's how we are alerted, is through people
Yeah.
letting us know, so.
So I guess what I'm hearing from Thor is that Susan, you could do something about this if Susan were to see something like that, she would just call the city. Is that what I'm hearing? And then the code enforcement officer could circle back with that homeowner if you feel inclined to do that. If you feel that it's a danger, by all means, you're welcome to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Something else with the leaf management update is that the VMO show that Joe Martin hosts every week for an hour. He had Thor and Brad Bruin and Jeff Johnson were in the studio. Jeff is one of our public works guys, as is Thor. And the three of these gentlemen spoke with Joe all about everything under the sun with leaf management, from, you know, the phosphorus and the impact on the lake to how far into the yard, you know, those leaf trucks can reach. And, you know, the number of leaf trucks that circle the community and the pace that they go at and the need to be patient, and just educating people about how that works. I got an email from Joe today. He let me know that the episode, I guess, I don't know if that's what you called, it ran today for the first time, and he has split it into smaller chunks so that it can be sprinkled throughout the day. He also said that he recorded some PSAs with some fourth graders. So that was kind of nice to hear. So we're getting the new word out on VMO. I will also have, there will also be an article in this month's e-newsletter that I'll be submitting tonight. And I'll run that past Thor just to make sure that we have 2 months in a row of people being reminded about leaf-free streets and adopting storm drains. And let's see. Let me just check my list and I'll just go through the list. I have not arranged, we also talked about those flyers. I can't remember if we said this before the meeting started. I'll say it again. I hope it's not repetitious, but we're working with Alder DePula to get those flyers out on pizza top boxes. So every time they make a delivery to a Monona home or even in the area, they'll throw a flyer on the top of the pizza box and send that out. And I'll work with Lake North, another pizza place in town. I will work with them and we will get those out. And Kristen, we were just talking about circling back with some of the business owners that she and Ashley met when they were working on their winter salt campaign, and how we could circle back with those business owners that they've collected the contact information for. And she and I, and perhaps Alder Bernstein, will take a little walk and see if they might put flyers at their businesses, which is wonderful. So we're getting the word out about leaf-free streets. Sarah, actually, Thor, should we share would you like to talk about Sarah's social media work?
I love them so much. I had them pulled up right
They're
here.
fantastic, yeah.
So yeah, Sarah had this great idea and the artistic touch to create some social media posts they're pretty cheeky. They're gonna play on, online dating apps. So we've got lonely storm drains seeking
I
partners.
love Isn't that hilarious? It's
That's
fantastic.
great. Yeah.
And look at the bottom, love language, acts of service. I just think that's killer funny.
That's great. I hope these get the attention they
You like to
deserve.
go with the flow. Yeah,
Yeah.
Healy is low maintenance.
Yeah, if you all are on Facebook, I'll have these posted. I'll roll them out over the next couple days. If you see them, share them, and because Sarah did such a great job. So we've got 3 of them. Teresa's been looking for clogged up storm drains on her walks.
Oh, I took that. No, did I take that picture? I may
This
have-
one, yeah, you said.
Yeah, Winnetka.
The lakes.
Like, I know.
So yeah, I'm excited to get these out there.
I think that's just wonderful. Yeah.
Can I add something to that too? I have come up with, we had talked at one point, I think about with Brad about the possibilities at some future time, probably not this year, but maybe next or the next, about getting some either competition or just an activity for families to do, which would be following their storm drain path all the way to the lake. As an activity for, just a little hiking trek and trying to figure out. I have written up a little thing that is called Intro for Fun Storm Drain Tracking Activity Competition. So it could be used kind of as an intro to that. And it happens to pull out that theme of the puns and love yours. It's a little, well, I'm going to give it to Thor and he can pass it along to you. You can, comment or edit or whatever, but it's a little bit of fun. And I don't know if it would go along with a more formal thing that I'm, with that activity, I want to make sure nobody goes and looks for the storm drain to the very end and hangs over and falls off into the lake or anything. But there's some concerns I have about it, but at the same time, I think it could be done. And I just thought I would kind of maybe connect those ideas and have a little fun with it too. So
I think that's a great idea. What I did was I put it on the project plan for sort of like a parking lot so that we don't forget about it, so that when next year rolls around, if there's folks that are interested in running with it, we won't forget about it. But for this year, I think it's a little late to start it, but it's captured
Well,
so
you
that
you guys can pass it out and see, because it could kind of come any time of year when it's walkable.
if you would like to run with it,
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
we can do it, but
I guess what I need is the feedback. Would it
Oh.
stand alone or does it need a second piece to kind of make sure it's okay? Or do we
Well,
need to follow? It wouldn't go as a
yeah.
competition because we'd have to have something as a reward maybe. But
Yeah.
it could go as just a suggestion for an activity.
So
So
Susan, so here's my thought on that. So when we first started this campaign in the beginning, I
Mhm.
thought that was the time when we were just sort of brainstorming all the things that we might do. We narrowed down that list to what was doable, and then we started to work on that list. And we've been plugging away on that list for a couple months now. And so I really think that we're sort of like set as far as like the scope of what we'll be doing this year, we are set. So to introduce a new activity, I think would probably be not possible right now. Our resources are already committed to like
Right.
finishing the current list that we haven't finished.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of food for thought, right? At this point,
Absolutely.
If people liked it enough and thought we
Yeah.
could get it out without anything added or with a little bit of,
Well, it's
you know,
October. We-
like a handout at the library.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but if it isn't, you would rather wait and.
I'd
do it,
rather
it's just an
wait.
Idea and.
I'd rather wait because the start of our campaign was October 1st. So we're already in the middle of it right now. So so I captured it so that it won't be forgotten, so that in future years, when we're planning, like when we start to plan in like August for an October 1st start date, then we'll have that with us for next August. So back to the project plan, something else that I would share with you is that we have the social media campaign that Sarah came up with. So keep your eye on the Facebook page. It's just a really cute, I love the theme. And one thing about the Facebook page that I just wanted to remind folks about is that we just need to be careful about citing statistics, and we have to be careful. On some websites that I've seen, they'll say things like, 50% of phosphorus can be eliminated, or, in these, practices that we have. And I think it's accurate. It's better just to say the number one cause of phosphorus in waterways in the autumn comes from leaves in the street. And the number one thing that we can do is to keep leaves out of the street. But to make promises about the percentage that we can reduce phosphorus is I think we're opening ourselves up for criticism. So just be careful about that.
So climate dependent too. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of factors. Exactly. Now there was a U.S. Geological USGS study that was conducted, and they came out with some amazing results. But one of the coordinators of that study, who happens to live here in Monona, I spoke with him, and he said, that was an impressive result, but it was a very, very controlled, environment, and it would be perhaps difficult to recreate that level of control throughout the city with residential streets. But so be careful about promising statistics and things like that. Also, something else to say about our leaf management campaign is that if you would like to record a PSA, we can still fit a couple in if you'd like to. We can just please talk to me and we can get that done. And finally, Brad is, I'll be meeting with Brad soon. And he was able to send out an email to all of the current storm drain adopters. We're hopefully going to circle back with a second email to just sort of make more of a direct ask and really enlist their help in recruiting other storm drain adopters. So that's wonderful. All right. So that's our leaf management campaign for 2023. Is everyone ready to move on to discussion about our winter salt campaign?
Sure.
Well, how about discussion of all around
Yep.
Dane County with
Oh, I'm
sustainability?
sorry. How about that?
5B.
Thank you. 5B, all around Dane County. I would like to coordinate something with Sustain Dane and for Monona to host one of these events. Now, that said, I've been very poor about responding to Sustain Dane's invitation, and I'm not even sure if the invitation still stands. But
Oh, it does. It does.
it does.
Oh, sure, of course it does.
Okay. Okay.
They want
Because I didn't know if they needed someone like immediately to get into like a November timeframe. But so here's what these events are about. Sustain Dane is will come into a community. Like I watched a recording about an event that took place in a different community. It was at a brew pub. There was beer, there were snacks and appetizers, and there were probably 4 to 6 people that got up, and for 5 minutes each, they just said a little bit about some interesting project that was going on or that recently happened in their community. And it just gave people a chance to network and to learn about what other communities are doing. When I think about Monona, we can easily find 5 or 6 people, 4 to 6 people to talk about something, Ken, you could talk about the solar panels on the high school. We can talk about LED replacements. We can talk about the campaigns that we do on the sustainability committee to reach out to the community. We can talk about our 5-year plan for moving away from, to moving toward clean energy. We can talk about the library's Eco Action Tuesday program that Susan knows so much about. I mean, there's certainly some pretty low-hanging fruit. We can talk about, stuff that Public Works is doing with I&I. I mean, there's like cool stuff, nice success stories. And it wouldn't be more than up to 5 minutes max each person. You have a beer, you have an appetizer, you have fun. You show off a little bit about what we've been doing. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I agree. I think that's a very easy way to get share great ideas and get some visibility.
Yeah, and it'll be fun, And like I say, Sustain Dane, these are my questions. So I don't know for sure what support they provide. Do they do all the marketing, or would we do that? Is there a budget? Do we pay for the, the snacks, the appetizers? I'm assuming everyone buys their own beer when they show up, but those are just some of the questions that I would like to know the answer to. Do any of you have some thoughts about what questions we should find out? What more information we might need?
I mean, is the audience, I guess it's other people from Monona, right? We're more interested in Monona.
Well, I think they advertise it to all of the Sustain Dane members all throughout all,
Okay.
the region.
So it may be coming from outside, but I think our
Right.
primary audience would be Monona, right?
I don't know, maybe, probably, just
mean,
because people.
From our point of view,
Probably, yeah.
that's who we would.
I would
maybe
hope
focus
it's from
on.
other communities. I would hope it,
I
Yeah.
think there is value in that. I think Fitchburg is coming up. What was the one we were originally considering?
Rick, aren't you
So-
attending?
Sun
Rick is-
Prairie
Yeah.
or something, wasn't it? And
I think-
it's a
Yeah,
mix of people.
there's one coming up in McFarland, October
Yeah.
25th.
Oh, McFarland, okay.
So, yep, October 25th,
Mhm.
5:30 PM to 7 in McFarland at the McFarland House Cafe.
Oh, they have a
Um,
location now. Okay.
Yep, so the intent, I think, is for it to be, the presentations are community specific, but it's certainly marketed to Dane County as a whole, so.
Cool.
That at McFarland, the 6 presenters will be the McFarland Village Government, the Good Oak Ecological Services. I think they're like a native landscaping company.
I think they're on Flom
the
Road.
Public Safety Building, a church in the community, and then the Lake Wabisa Conservancy. So, it's religious institutions,
Yeah, it's trying to
nonprofits.
pull a variety of
private
different,
businesses,
yeah. You want the
That would be-
variety, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that'd be cool.
Mhm.
What is
So
the
are,
date?
are,
What
are
is
they,
the-
could they be a PowerPoint presentation or is this just conversation?
A little bit of both, maybe like 2 or 3 pictures and just conversation.
Okay.
I don't know. I would imagine you could do a little.
Imagine it could be whatever we want.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
send out
if
the
peop-
link.
okay, share that link, Thor. If you want, you can RSVP through Eventbrite and get a formal ticket. That way they know to expect a certain number of people.
What's the date of that McFarland event again?
October 25th, Wednesday, 5:30. 5:30 to 7. So I'm thinking hors d'oeuvres there at least.
I am too. That's definitely happy hour. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll go and we'll check out the competition and then we'll do
Yeah,
it.
so
And then we'll do it even better.
someone should call Sustain Dane to see what resources they bring to bear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they've reached out to Teresa and I, we've been, it's kind of been on the back burner as we've
Okay.
explored.
Yeah.
All right.
Now that we have quorum, we can make decisions like this. So it's
So
good.
do we want to do it in November, December?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it just depends on how quickly they want it. I don't know. I'll find out. I think they were
Okay.
originally hoping for November. And which is why I joked about the invitation may not even be open anymore. What I mean is for November might not be possible, but
Okay.
yeah,
I think we'd need a little more time anyway
I
to,
do too. I
Pull
do.
it
December
together.
wouldn't be a good time anyway,
Yeah.
because that's holidays and everybody's.
I
gone.
agree.
okay,
So, yeah.
we're talking spring.
Yeah.
Love, I don't know.
All right. Well, by that time we'll have some good stuff. All right. So that was what I wanted to share about the all around Dane County with Sustain Dane. All right, new business, Saltwise project planning. Let's take some time to talk about this. Thor and I actually talked about it just a few minutes this afternoon, and basically what we said is that campaign kind of writes itself. I mean, Kristen and Ashley did such a good job on this last year that I don't know, Kristen. I mean, you even put together a lessons learned document. You sort of like evaluated what you would do differently next year. Is there any, what do you think? Is it time? It's October. Is it time to meet now to start thinking about it, or is it too soon?
Well, one of our lessons learned was to start sooner.
Okay.
And so I think we're at that point where,
Okay.
you know, if we want to realize some of those next steps, I know there's a link to, actually, I know that you guys have, I'm scrolling madly through this notes here to see where we had next steps and future ideas, but, you know, even something like better coordinating with some of our local schools, to maybe get some student involvement. This might be a little late this year at this point, I don't know, but I didn't know if maybe we would even want to start talking about how to bring businesses into beyond just maybe putting a cling on their window, but perhaps receiving recognition for some level of leadership or, you know, initiative that they might take to be a leader for this campaign in some way.
Right.
And yeah, so what we wanted to do is to collaborate with the Monona Chamber of Commerce to increase visibility, right? We wanted also to expand residential communication to include mailer inserts if possible with the City of Monona tax statements. So, you know, getting this kind of thinking going now and planning, it would be possibly able to do something like that now. Any other actions that we can think to increase the visibility of the campaign, but also getting our PSAs out earlier in the winter season. So those are some of the next steps and future ideas. So therefore, I would say, you know, I think this is good timing.
Yeah. It was just wonderful to work with you on that campaign. I mean, and do you think you might keep the same slogan? Don't be salty. I mean, that's a winner.
It is such a winner. I think we want to stick with it and, you know, get traction and,
right.
You know, kind of brands itself, right?
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, what do you think would work best then? Do you feel that we should get a subcommittee beyond you and Ashley? Would someone else be needed, or do you feel like it's best to keep it small and nimble? How many on your committee do you want?
You know, we welcome another body if you want. I have not had the opportunity to connect with Ashley to get a sense of her availability.
Okay.
So it is at least minimum a 2-person kind of endeavor.
Absolutely.
So I think that, first we want to maybe as a committee decide what we might want to expand in doing.
Yeah.
Do we want to be doing mailing inserts? Do we want to increase anything at all beyond what we did last year? That might help us to gauge kind of the level of effort and resources needed.
Thor, how much do we have in our budget? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think it's $410.
Does that roll over to next year if we don't use it this year?
I'll have to double check, but I think it would.
Okay. So I don't know if we get to keep it or
Less
not.
next year.
Yeah, we might not get that $1,000 boost again.
Yeah, yeah. But bringing in more businesses, collaborating with the chamber, that's a really great idea, Kristen. Does anyone here have a connection to the chamber, or do you know anyone with a connection to the chamber? I have not met Christine yet, the new director. I would love to do that. Maybe that's how I could help. Yeah,
That would be great,
yeah.
Teresa.
And-
And
And didn't you already kind of collect a list of names and contacts? Of
We do.
businesses? That was the whole point, yeah. Hmm.
yeah, so we tracked even those that we didn't make contact with, but we attempted. Or those that weren't willing to participate, we've taken some notes. We might circle back, but if we have, I don't recall, Teresa or Thor, do we have additional like leftover window clings
I think we
or
do.
bookmarks?
I don't have window clings. We didn't order that many of the window clings, maybe
Okay.
25.
Oh,
But I
okay.
have, well, maybe Ashley has them though. We can check with her, but I have a lot of bookmarks.
You have a lot
Okay,
of bookmarks left? Okay.
Yes.
'cause it's nice to go.
Hundreds.
Oh, I'm sorry, please continue, Thor.
No, we're well set on bookmarks.
Okay.
Great.
The window clings are really nice for when we do business outreach, though. I think, is that what you were thinking, Kristen?
Indeed. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, we've got a little $100 or so that we can easily put toward that. And I think that they were not that, they were rather inexpensive, right? Didn't Ashley even print them?
I don't recall, but I think they
Yeah.
might have been 30 cents a unit or less.
Yeah, very inexpensive. Yeah, we're pretty lean here on this committee. Right.
Yes.
All right. So I'm hearing next steps, schedule a meeting, just get to planning.
Yes.
And maybe I'll send out a email to everyone taking if anyone would care to join us. All right.
For reference, we printed 50 window clings and it was $86.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay.
Very nice.
So should we get another 50, you think? We have that
Well,
much?
Well, we'll kind of like, as we start to, that'll be a decision that work group can
Okay,
make. Yeah. But Rick, you should join the work group because
okay.
they're fun.
Well, if it's fun,
Ashley and Kristen are wonderful to work with. Okay.
okay,
We'd
All
love
right.
to work with you. Yes.
yeah, put me on the list.
All right. Rick, Ashley, Kristen, Teresa, Thor. Okay, I'll send out we'll figure out a date and send it out. All right, wonderful. So then the next thing on the agenda to talk about is 6B, discussion of sustainability committee project work plans, roles and responsibilities, and communication. 10 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to take this out of order. Or I'm going to talk about I'll take it in order. That's fine. Where this came from was that recently I did some digging around into the Monona ordinances. And I wanted to make sure that all of the committees that I was chair of, I wanted to make sure that I was in line with what the ordinance said the roles and responsibility of that committee were. And when I dig into the ordinance language for the Sustainability Committee, it doesn't really talk much about the community facing work that we do, even though it's been said over and over again that that's really how we can help. This body can really help by reaching out to the residents. And then, you know, we've always sort of struggled with how to affect internal operations at the city. And so when you think about duties, as it says here, review and recommend policies and programs, review and recommend financial personnel committee, budgetary revenue expenditures. Number 3, perform such duties and have responsibilities, you know, which number 3 is kind of where all of our public facing work, I would think falls under. We haven't really made a lot of recommendations on programs and policies. What I was thinking is that earlier this year, Thor, Alder Bernstein, and myself met with all of the department heads, and we sort of asked them, you know, what would you think if, you know, this whole like implementing this sustainability plan, even though Monona is really, the city is really focusing more on the green tier legacy reporting, the sustainability plan is still there as a really good repository of ideas for what we can all be doing and what we can all be working on. And I wondered if, according to this ordinance, it would not be at all out of the scope of our roles and responsibility if we were to make a recommendation that each department have their own sustainability goals every year, their own sustainability mini plan. It can be a list, just a checklist, a punch list. Here's what we're going to do in parks. Here's what we're going to do public works. Here's what we're going to do at the library. I understand that not all departments are going to be able to come up with the same amount of things. Public works already does so much that's sustainability related. The police may have a harder time coming up with something outside of purchasing an expensive electric vehicle, right? So that's kind of where my thoughts are going on how we could operate. It's not a new thought. We've talked about it before, but now I just wanted to check that, you know, we're swimming in our lane and we're, you know, acting within our scope of responsibilities and duties. So I think what I'll do is I'll bring this up to the mayor, and it will probably require a co-signer if it goes to council. So Alder Bernstein, I'll probably be calling on you to do that. But I don't recall, and maybe this is a question to Thor and Rick, I don't recall any pushback when we floated this idea past, you know, each of the department heads. And that was the whole plan. I mean, give them a warning, give them a heads up that this might be coming so that we don't take them by surprise. And I didn't sense that it was an issue.
No,
You
The
remember?
concern
Yeah.
was, you know, that we weren't making budget demands
Right.
and stretching their resources, but that's not what we would be asking.
Right. Yeah, right. So there are plenty of things that, I mean, and who knows? And maybe the first year we go, you know, a lot more lenient than, you know, it's just the first year is we wait in slowly, but yeah. So we'll have to talk this over more and flesh out the details of what this would look like. But I just wanted to give folks a little heads up on what we're thinking. And also, of course, ordinances can be changed. I mean, the city council creates the ordinances. If there's something about the language of this ordinance that you feel needs to be changed, by all means, that is a conversation that we can have.
well, at the last meeting, I think we talked about making it the year of kind of thing, the year of energy or something like that.
And that would be the next point on the agenda, Rick. You're absolutely right.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely correct on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's where
You
you
and
were.
I may have been thinking of the same thing. That's why I was
Okay.
questioning if I should flip the agenda items and take them out of order. Yeah.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
I see where you're going. That's
Yeah.
fine. We finish with this and then go
Yeah.
to
So
this.
anyway, that's kind of what that agenda item is all about, with this idea of speaking to the mayor about getting each department to implement their own sustainability goals. There has also been in the past a suggestion that each department, that it be written into their performance reviews. Like the city administrator could actually have a section of each of the employees' annual performance review. So that's something else that we could consider. Do you feel that that would be too much to ask? Or do you think that that's reasonable?
I wonder, I think we have to think in terms of budget years. I mean, I do
Yeah.
think that we're probably gonna talk about budgetary implications.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be more impactful. I don't know, maybe both.
It's hard
But-
to say. Yeah.
I mean, if we task a department to do something, it's up to them to get it done or how to get it done and who to ask to do it. Don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. I do want to be careful that we're not just creating busy work,
No, God, no.
and I want to be careful that we're not asking things that, and maybe it's just a matter of, maybe it just turns out for some that it's just a matter of assembling a list of all the work that they're already doing. Maybe it's just a matter of,
Well, that, I
Okay.
think we should be aware of what they're doing for sure.
right,
But I think if we're going to focus on energy, we have to figure out where that's
right,
most likely to, the advances or savings is going to come from.
right.
And then kind of work from there, which department is most likely going to be able to manage something like that.
Right. So why don't we like slide into the next agenda item and keep this, they're very correlated, the two of them, but just to move on then, and we can always circle back. So what Rick is referring to is that at our last time that we met, although we didn't have a quorum, Thor and I, it was not an official meeting, but we talked about something that Thor and I, when he and I met with Brad suggested something, and then we shared it with the group, which is that perhaps the sustainability committee might choose one focus area for 2024 and to really, focus on that. So whatever that might be, the year of, clean water, soil, land use, solid waste, energy, whatever it is. And I think that the big consensus was energy. Thor and Rick and I attended an awards ceremony that was hosted by the Dane County Office of Climate Change. And it was, the city was being awarded a nice little recognition. And when we were there, we got to talking a little bit with Kathy Kuntz about all the work that her office is doing to educate people about the Inflation Reduction Act. They are putting out blogs, newsletters, you name it, just anything she can think of to like push out information as it becomes available, because it is still trickling in, that she is still learning about what's coming down the pike on the IRA. And I asked her, would it be okay if we just plagiarized all the stuff that you guys are already putting together? And she said, that is exactly what I want you to do. I want to push it out, and then you amplify it out into your communities and your circles. So that could make it very easy for us to really just focus in on energy, and particularly the Inflation Reduction Act, and educate residents about everything it has for them. And also the city, like we would just really be able to develop our own expertise about how the city could benefit from this piece of legislation. So I don't know all the details about what this would look like, the year of energy, I'm not sure, but those are just sort of the preliminary thoughts. Have one focus. The focus would be energy. Inflation Reduction Act education would probably be the main thing. Any thoughts on that? I know, Ken, you're very familiar with the IRA.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of feedback on things, Teresa. But before I lose track, you had mentioned about making sustainability part of people's annual performance review.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that that's a little hard because they don't necessarily have control of the budget themselves to
Yeah.
implement everything they want.
Yeah.
But maybe a way to think about, incentivizing different divisions of city government would be to have some sort of an award or a competition for whatever
Okay.
city department has the best, sustainability accomplishment of the year, and they could recognize, the mayor could recognize the department for, outstanding achievements in sustainability. That's not exactly a performance review, but it does, recognize people for, taking a leadership action.
Mhm.
I think that would be a nice way to, at least provide people with some recognition when they do have accomplishments.
I like that. Thank
So,
you.
For the idea of focusing the year, I presume you mean the year 2024 for the
Correct.
year on energy.
Correct.
I can see a lot of rationale for that. The Inflation Reduction Act is huge, and it's going to be a lot of federal funding that is available for energy projects. And as you kind of alluded to, the details for that really haven't been fully fleshed out yet.
Right.
And I think the general population doesn't know anything about it. So
Right.
there's a lot of just public awareness that could be championed there.
Yeah.
And by making more people in our community aware of it, it means more people could get those federal dollars flowing back into Monona. Compared to a lot of other campaigns where it's always a scramble for like, how do we find resources to make them happen? This is one where the federal government's already dedicated a huge pool of money to go towards
Right.
this. We just need to, let people know that it's there so they can take advantage of it.
Yeah. And I feel like Kathy Coons has already sort of put together the roadmap. We just need to help her get the word out by.
I mean, that is definitely helpful if we've already got somebody from Dane County producing some of the educational materials and
Right.
creating some of the messaging, and we just need to provide additional forums.
Right.
Whether that be through, community meetings at the library or through
Right.
public service announcements or our newsletter, that sort of thing.
Right.
Could she come to our next meeting?
Oh, sure. She could. Yeah.
I'm
I
sure
could
she
educate-
would if we invited her.
I could invite her for sure. Okay.
Yeah, because maybe it's the year of the IRA, and I think the 2024 budget, the capital budget, is going to be approved next week. So we
Mhm.
may be looking in terms of budget for
Right.
2025. But
Right.
educating the public about the IRA,
Huge.
that sounds very timely right now.
Yeah. And if we could just trickle it out, like every month in the newsletter or whatever, like the sustainability I mean, we could just trickle it out on Sustainable Monona. We could just really
Right.
help people. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work or not. And selfishly, it would just force me to learn about something that I've really wanted to learn about, but just haven't, sat down and learned about it.
Well, so far, I don't know anybody that's gotten an award from the Inflation Reduction Act. It's much talked about, and there's a lot of projects that are, seeking to go after that money, but I don't know anybody that's actually implemented one yet.
Really?
Oh, that's interesting.
Really?
I wonder if our city hall might be a good candidate.
It is a candidate. The details for accessing the money aren't even really available yet. For municipal governments, it's especially difficult because we don't pay taxes, right? For the average tax owner, I understand how the tax credit will work, but
Right.
for the what they've been calling the direct pay mechanism for municipal governments and nonprofits, I mean, you're basically going to have to fill out paperwork with the Treasury Department, from what I gather. But I don't know how that's going to work, because
Okay.
we don't submit taxes to the IRS, so there's no tax credit to claim, right?
No, but I thought there was some kind of reimbursement where you spend a certain amount of money and you get a
And you get-
percentage of that as
That is correct. Yeah, you will. But how you actually go about claiming that, I don't know how that's going to work for.
Well, I guess if we just keep our ear to the ground and keep
Yeah.
talking to people like Kathy, maybe we'll find out more.
Mhm.
I think by the time the new city hall is built and constructed, all of those details will have been fleshed out for sure.
Good.
And just so you know, Ken, on the agenda, I would like you to speak a little bit about that project that you're involved in when we get to that point of down on number 8.
Yeah.
So I do definitely want to hear from you on that. So I guess the question on the table is, Brad had suggested, that maybe the sustainability committee just focuses on one thing. And to me, it just feels like the Inflation Reduction Act, education about it is a really good thing to focus on. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't continue to do these little campaigns, especially since we've worked so hard to sort of build out the to-do list, that we've already collected lessons learned. We've got our list of what's needed. So something to think about. Now, if we did focus on one thing, would we involve all the city departments? I mean, how much coordination do we want to do? Do we want to and consider that an alder assignment could change every year. Like the next alder comes around and, it's hard to build continuity when you have a committee like this. But, Thor could certainly be that continuity. So, my term is up in April. So who knows about my committee appointments, but Brad also, and maybe Thor, maybe you can correct me if I'm only thinking I heard this because of wishful thinking, or if he really did say it. What if we were to involve all the city departments, like make it throughout the entire city? We're just going to focus on energy this year.
Yeah, I believe that's how it worked in the past when the city had one of these focus, like the year of water, the year of the bike.
Yeah.
It's like a decade ago, but I think that's the goal, is to kind of engage every department and committee is like that's one of the focuses. So, for instance, if it is energy, we could have, work with the senior center to create programs to engage their stakeholders in energy, work with parks to, they focus on energy improvements at parks, building inspection. How can we work with building inspection to promote the IRA and those opportunities when someone's applying for a building permit and things like that.
Library programming at the library,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know that fire and, police would be, able to find ways to work it into their work, but, certainly, there's room in other departments. Yeah.
I think a long-term budgeting for some electric squad cars would probably be a good thing for our police.
Yeah, well, Ken, unfortunately, the sad news is that there is a hybrid squad car, and it seems to be a lemon, which is really, really sad because, you try to do the right thing, as they did, and then they get dinged for it, so it's too bad. But
What kind of vehicle do they have? Do you know?
oh, Rick, do you remember? It is a hybrid squad car, I recall. And it's been giving the chief a lot of headaches with the performance of it. So,
Not their only hybrid though, so it's like one
Mm.
out of 3 or something that's been
Yeah.
giving them a headache.
yeah,
So they've been complaining about it because it has this really bad acceleration, which is what they need sometimes.
Yeah, they have,
I was just at a electric vehicle ride and drive event at the Alliant Energy Center on Wednesday, and they had some Ford Mustang Mach-E police cruisers there. Those are pretty sweet rides.
You
let me
bet,
tell ya.
I bet.
Yeah. Well, the police chief kind of scoped that out a little bit, and he said he wanted to wait a year to see how it works with
That's
other
probably a
police
good idea.
departments.
Yeah.
And I think Middleton or something like that is getting one, so he's going to hear from them how it works. And then I think he'd be very interested in getting something like that.
You know, Alder Bernstein and I know this already, that Parks has asked for
Hmm.
a second little electric utility vehicle.
Mhm.
You know, you probably have seen in the budget this year, that was something. You've probably seen the little electric vehicle that they use just to buzz around and haul stuff, and it just saves them from using a big gas guzzler vehicle. So it's one of the most used vehicles of any of the parks vehicles, and
Yeah.
Jake said it's like it never needs repairs. It's like the most reliable, the most used, and
Yeah, I
everyone
heard him
loves
say
it.
he'd like 6 of them,
Yeah, he just loves those little electric vehicles.
and
Yeah.
they're only like $20,000 or
Yeah,
something.
and for like, you know, the festivals where they have to buzz around and get stuff, I mean, why take a big truck? You know, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah,
There's a lot of cool electric equipment at that event at Alliant Energy Center. Everything ranging from, electric bobcats to excavators, little skid steers and stuff like that.
I wish I had known about that. I would have gone.
yeah, it's
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if they'll
It's
have
cool.
this like at other nearby communities. Maybe I should keep my
Yeah.
eye on that.
For the Brave, there were some electric motorcycles, which I didn't ride those, but I was told that if you grabbed a handful of throttle, it would throw you right off the back. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, so the acceleration is supposed to be really good in an electric
Yeah.
vehicle, right? So that's just the frustration with this Monona squad car.
Yeah.
Did you
Sounds
say
like it
you
must
did?
be, it sounds like if it's a hybrid, though, it's got both an internal combustion engine
Oh.
and electric drive, and the
Right,
drivetrain the
Yeah,
control
yeah.
system must just not be doing what it's supposed to.
right. Okay, so instead of just making the jump to complete electric, which is maybe what is needed, yeah.
Thor,
So
did
do-
you know how many hybrids they have? Was it 3?
so they have 7 hybrids and 1 plug-in hybrid.
Okay. Which one is giving them trouble? Do you know? It's one of the hybrids, right? But you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So they have a Ford Fusion plug-in hybrid.
Hmm.
And then a Toyota Camry hybrid, and then the rest are all Ford Interceptors, which are the squad cars. you
That
know.
sounds right. Yeah. Okay. So 1 lemon out of 7.
I didn't realize it was 7. I thought it was fewer.
That's what we got our emergent star for.
Yep.
They also make a special services version of the Ford Lightning F-150 truck, which I think would be a pretty nice vehicle too for a.
Honey, you should bring that up.
Yeah. Well, the police chief was leaned on to consider that, but like I said, he wants to see how other communities. That was the one he was looking at.
Yeah, so they've got a F-150 in the budget. And Rick
Yeah.
knows, because you're on
Yeah.
that committee, Rick, but yeah. Yeah.
But it was a
P&Gs.
significant difference. It
Yeah.
was several tens of thousands.
Oh
for-
yeah, that vehicle is not cheap and it's in
No.
high demand. So.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. So, you wait a year, maybe the price will come down.
right. No, but
We're on
Chief
the list
Cheney's
for one at
really,
the Tech College too, but it's going to be a while before we actually get it, I suspect.
Yep.
so point taken, Ken, about performance reviews. I changed my mind on that. You convinced me. That's good. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah,
about-
well, if the police department does get an electric Lightning, they immediately get the award,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They become the sustainability champion department of the year.
There you go. Yeah,
There you go.
I wonder.
Here's the-
Oh, yes,
So if it's okay, I just wanted to speak to one of the points that you made a few minutes
Sure.
ago. And that was about the, continuity of
Mhm.
these efforts going forward, given, the nature of these alder appointments.
Yeah.
But I think that the success of this kind of focus is going to be dependent on process and the extent to which we can operationalize this into, uh, the way that our government is going to work. And so I think that, if we can get buy-in from the departments, to identify, make it just kind of an annual thing where each year there is a strategic focus, and that each department then will commit to an initiative that they define that aligns with that focus, that is realistic, maybe a smartified version of, make sure it's smart in its concept, that maybe, we can create something that is robust and, continues on no matter who's running the sustainability committee. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it would be difficult to see this be limited to the leadership just in the sustainability committee. And frankly, I think that it supports what the whole ethos is behind the sustainability committee, to integrate this as a part of an ongoing effort that is embedded in all of our city departments. So it could be spearheaded in our sustainability committee in terms of defining what the strategic focus is annually, and then, getting buy-in by inviting the departments to identify what it is they're going to be doing to support it, and reporting out on this. So while it wouldn't perhaps be part of a, evaluation for performance, we could show performance outcomes by way of what we've committed to at the end of the year, and celebrate those in the way that Ken pointed out. I think that's a really positive reinforcement type of an approach. But
Yeah, I like that.
Is it a problem to focus on just one thing? I mean, we need to learn about the IRA. I get that. But if we focus only on energy, and parks has some really awesome like land use thing that they would have done, I just, instead of energy, I like the idea of operationalizing it. Yes, that's the whole point. Like, build it into every department and have accountability and reporting. And so every month at city council meetings, we have reports from the departments. As part of that report, there could be just a little update on their sustainability plan or their DEIB plan, which would make sense also to include. And just sort of, yeah, I love that word, operationalize it, just to make it a standard part of the way we do business, which has always been the goal. It's just, we need to make council, pass it through council, make it happen.
Right. Well, okay, I could geek out on this because I do this, in my 9-to-5 world, but if we were to have some kind of a strategic framework in place,
Sure.
where and again, this could be a much bigger process that is beyond the resource availability to do it, right? But if we had several topical areas, and they could be standing topical areas of strategic work or of sustainability work that we would call strategic, and they may fall into 3 or 4 broad categories that the various departments could engage with. And we might want to champion one of them each year to highlight. But as you know, we have our own operational, I think now, sustainability committee items going on with the LEAF campaign and the Adopt a Storm Drain and the Salty Wise campaign. And
Our
like,
seasonal,
we're really
yeah.
starting to get these kind of annual cyclical, what I would call operational activities that the committee is now doing.
Mhm.
But then what might we do to elevate engagement across, the departments that amplifies what we're already doing? So it could be that Parks has some, interesting land use piece that aligns very nicely with one of these topical areas that we might call our strategic focal points. That doesn't preclude us from championing one of them particular or something altogether different, but I'm
Mhm.
just thinking of if we had some anchor points that we might call our strategic focal points or several goals that we revolve around for a period of years. And this gives city departments an opportunity to operationalize those things and build on them and show some progression and move the dial and tell a success story. You know, I think that, so that's where I'm getting into my geek mode, but
Yeah,
that's just a thought I
It's
had
good.
about how to frame this up, you know?
geek on.
Geek away. Yeah. Geek on. Yeah. It's good. It's very good. Yeah. That's sort of been missing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Like the year of the rat and the year of the snake.
The monkey.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
So we could decide what we want to champion or highlight in the, you know, with all of our routine things going on. We might want to engage the city departments with that one thing, in addition to inviting them to have the ongoing processes in place where they're, you know, where they have something tied to a sustainability strategy. I'm trying to call it a strategic plan, because that could be a big process. But
Mm.
however it is that you feel would be a friendly, accessible, and a kind of, you know, people could consume this easily.
You
Okay.
said something, I want to rephrase it. So I think you said you would invite each department to engage with the topic that we have named, but also they would be free to build their own list of initiatives. Is that what I heard you say, kind of more?
It's kind of two things, right?
Okay.
Because maybe the first thing is just to invite them to think about initiatives that would be part of a process. This is a new leg of what they already do, but it would be a sustainably focused activity, and it aligns with, like I was suggesting, maybe, you know, 2 to 4 goals that the sustainability committee, kind of topical areas. It could be, you know, we've been focusing on various campaigns. So there's that, and that would be what you might call your strategic planning.
Mhm.
There might also be some kind of, you know, aspirational or more of a maybe a pet focus that the sustainability committee itself wants to focus on each year.
Mhm.
That is kind of, we already, like I mentioned, have our kind of what I think are routine activities we're doing. What might we want to add on top of that? And so here we are talking about a focus on energy,
Mhm.
and that's great. And we could invite, you know, the city departments to engage it if they wanted, but I'm thinking that's an annual thing, and it would change each year.
Mhm.
That's great, but I was proposing that we have something as a process that it undergirds what might change annually. This is an ongoing thing, and it allows the city, the various departments to have a connection to what is going on in terms of sustainable priorities. How
Mhm.
those priorities are determined, I don't think maybe we don't limit it to this committee. Maybe there's some discussion with council members about what the priorities should be.
Mhm.
And then the departments can determine which among those priorities is achievable for them, or that they can align with.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry, it's so
So,
late in the day, and I'm not great with my words right now.
Please don't. Oh,
I was wondering about just one question for you, Kristen, and would it be like
Sure.
making each of those groups saying, okay, here is what, you know, the topic is water. What could we invite the community to be part of in addition to the things that we're doing? You know, maybe are there some things we can do either to reduce the amount or improve the quality or whatever it is we want to do with water?
Yep.
And then can we also invite the community to participate? How would we engage the community in participating in that activity? What
So-
would be helpful from them to, you know, for the community to be doing to help us make the city better?
Right, so I'm sorry that if I have confused you guys by putting out two separate ideas that I think could merge, but Sue, what you're describing is like what we're talking about here, an annual focus, right? Like the focus on energy or focus on water. And that I think is really productive for our sustainability committee because it's kind of it gives us a new project to work on. It helps us to engage the community along with the other things that we now have kind of built in, and we can, you know, hit play when the time of the year approaches and it's time to do that next campaign, right? But then beyond that, I was just pitching that, you know, maybe we have some kind of a framework, a strategic framework where we have, you know, water and maybe land use, sustainable land use, or, you know, restoration activities. And we have, I'm just throwing out examples here. Another one could be energy, and another one could be something like, well, let's just leave it at those three. And then those would be those strategic goals, if you will, that live in sustainability committee as an ongoing point of focus, right, for the city departments. So maybe they will have, maybe some departments would have plans that are an initiative that would support what we would want to do with land use. Maybe some departments might have an initiative that makes more sense for them to focus on energy or water. So if we had, you know, 2 to 4 strategic goals that we could have as a constant, and then that we would have a process in place where the departments could each year commit to some kind of an initiative that supports one of those 2 to 4 goals. And that would give them a chance to identify something that would work well for them. It's not us telling them that this is the one topic, you engage it or don't. You know, it gives them a chance to. And then I think too, for that buy-in, I think that's a good way to do it because it lets them decide what works for them. So I'm going to stop talking and ask if there are any thoughts about that, or this is a whole different conversation, I'm sure, for another meeting, but.
Or a conversation between meetings. Please don't apologize. You're very eloquent. You know what you're talking about. I really appreciate your perspectives, Kristen. And I really like what you've said. And maybe we just get together between meetings and work that out a little bit more.
Sure.
How we can move that forward. Yeah.
Thanks for hearing me out, guys.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Rick, did you have something to add?
No, I just
Oh.
like what she had to say.
Yeah,
It
me
makes
too.
sense. See, there's kind of a two-tiered system. There's that big, you know, what we're doing publicly
And then,
with these public facing programs, which you were
Right.
discussing is part C of our
right.
responsibilities. But then on another level, you know, we're working on bigger policy issues,
Right.
which I think we have said energy free by 2030 or something like
Yep.
that. Net
Yep.
energy.
Yep.
So, I mean, if that's the policy, how do we tactically
Yeah.
achieve that?
Yeah. All right. Big stuff to think about. All right. It is 7:59. I don't want to keep folks too late. But I would love Ken to have a few minutes where he could share with us an update about things that he is an update from your committee, the Public Safety Committee.
Yeah, so I was recruited by the mayor to serve on an ad hoc committee to review architect proposals for the Public Works facility, which will include a new city hall and police and fire science renovation. We interviewed several different architectural firms over a period of several weeks. You may have read in the paper that the winning submission was from Bray Architects. I believe they have now been issued a contract. It might still be in negotiation phase. I'm not sure if it's finalized yet. but I know that the mayor presented it to city council and it was
Mhm.
voted on and approved. So, you know, from there, Bray Architects will be working on designs for that facility over the next year. They've worked with the city in the past on long-range facility plans, so I think that gave them a little bit of an edge that they kind of knew the you know, existing state of affairs in the city, and we're already somewhat familiar with our facilities as they were. But they also, I think, had well, I can say this, they had a competitive paper submission, but they had a very strong interview. They had a very nice presentation, did a really nice job addressing all of the committee's questions, both the ones that we sent to them ahead of time and the ones that we asked in real time. And I would say they had a solid sustainability plan. I think all of the firms that we interviewed took the time to address concerns about sustainability. And all of them had some aspects of that built into their proposal, whether that be inclusion of geothermal systems or solar PV, or in some cases, net zero energy buildings. I don't know if all of those technologies are really practical for the site that we have, just considering some of the challenges there, you know, with the grade that we're on, with the amount of land that's available, knowing that it's on an old landfill location, that there's a well right next door, you know, like, and I'm not sure if all of the firms that you know interviewed were really aware of all of those complications, but it was clear that the architects from Bray were knowledgeable of the site and understood those you know those considerations that would have to be taken into account. It's still gonna, you know, require a lot of work to get from here to an actual, you know, municipal facility that's built. And it's certainly going to be an expensive project. But, you know, I think we've got at least a good architect working on the design at this point. And we'll see where things go from here as stuff unfolds over the next year.
I think they're trying to have something in place by, well, certainly by November, when there'll be a referendum on whether or not to pay so much for a new public safety city hall building. So they're originally scheduled to have it done by May, but that may slip a little bit because we're getting started later than they first scoped out.
Yeah, and I would say most of the firms did include some mention of like their support for referendum campaigns and, you know, what they could provide to help the city with that sort of public awareness and informational materials, public service announcements, that sort of thing. You know, they won't be going door to door and knocking on anybody's porch to advocate for the project, but you know, hopefully they can at least put together some nice materials that convey technical information in a way that's digestible for the you know average citizen or resident, which is really what you're looking for in an architect, you know. Well,
I think in a budget too.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we need to know what to ask for as part of the advisory referendum.
Ken, in the RFP, I remember reading, I was really pleased that when the RFP went out, it was right out in like the very first few pages. It talked about the city's desire to construct a building. And I believe the way it was written, to construct a building that generates as much energy as it consumes. And I read those words and I'm like, we're asking for this is net zero. This is holy smokes. But I love
How'd that happen?
But I loved it that we're aiming high, knowing that, you know, if you don't reach for the stars, you can't ever get there. And I understand that it may be very difficult to have a net zero building, but I was just really proud of the city of Monona that we just shot for the moon. And when we were looking for a person to do the work. Now, you bring up a lot of challenges, you know, so I don't know how challenging those challenges are, but I'm really happy that you're there on that committee.
Well, I think, you know, what it did is it set a benchmark by which, you know, we can then assess designs. Whether or not that's an achievable benchmark,
I know.
you know, you can do anything given unlimited funds, right?
Right,
Whether or not it's
exactly.
achievable within a reasonable cost is gonna be
Exactly.
another question.
Right,
And, you know, the other thing I think that, at least those of us on the committee, I think everybody agreed on, is that the city operates a portfolio of buildings.
right.
You know,
Exactly.
we don't necessarily want to take all of our resources and throw it into one to turn it
One.
into a Rolls Royce if we're still operating some Yugos from the 1960s, right? And we
Exactly.
might be able to, you know, trim our sails a little bit on this project and throw a few bones to the other dogs and get them up to speed, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah, good point.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
So, and
Yep.
I think, you know, it's gonna be, there certainly are examples of other municipal facilities, other fire stations, other police stations that are net zero facilities. But many of those that I'm familiar with were built on greenfield sites,
Right.
you know,
Right.
where you had ample land around them that you could put in a geothermal field, you could put
Right.
in a big ground mounted solar array. You weren't working with retrofits of existing buildings. And, you know, building envelopes that, you know, are from years ago and a footprint that you can't do a lot to change.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it'll be a tall order
yeah,
to get our facility to be a net zero facility.
yeah, yeah.
But that said, I think it focused all of the architects' attention on the fact that we are willing to spend money up front if it means we can reduce our long-term operational budget for the
Must- Right.
which really from a taxpayer perspective, that's where the payback is, right? You know,
Right.
if we can save money over the long term by spending more upfront, then that makes sense. So
Yes. Just the
Okay.
energy efficiency gained it will be tremendous, right? I don't know exactly, I can't recall exactly the situation at City Hall, but thinking of the community center, I remember one time Brad joked that you might as well just keep the doors open. The place leaks so badly, you know? I mean, it's so, you know,
Oh, I hadn't
But-
heard that.
Crafty,
and some of that
yeah.
is really challenging for you know, for a police or a fire science building where you've got vehicles coming in and out all
Doors
the
open
time,
all the
overhead
time,
door,
right,
bay doors and stuff like that. You know, you just think about the you know,
Right.
the air transfer happening through there. It
Right.
makes it difficult.
Yeah,
But I think, you know, there's no question that, you know, just upgrading the facility from a weatherization standpoint and, you know, replacing glazings and windows and doors is gonna make a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, having new mechanical units, you know, HVAC systems, heat recovery systems. That's actually the low hanging fruit, you know. The expensive stuff is all the, you know, like generating your own energy
Right.
to offset your consumption, you know, when you start getting into geothermal and solar systems, that starts getting
Yeah.
expensive. So
so what's the next step? What are you guys doing next?
well, I haven't heard any more from the mayor, other than, you know, she said we'll reconvene the committee when, you know, we have some preliminary designs back
Okay.
from the architect to assess and evaluate. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
so I think, you know, we're kind of waiting on them to, you know, complete their assessments, start working through their preliminary designs, and
Yeah.
we'll see where we go from there.
I have just a very quick question, just because I'm new to this conversation. I'm madly scrolling, trying to find, but where is the proposed location for this new building?
Yeah,
On
right
this
where
page.
Thor's sitting.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay,
So they're building in place, which is why it is like doubly complicated. There
I
have, and Ken and Thor, you chime in, others as well. There's been a years-long study about picking a location. And after all the looking and evaluating, it just came back to building in place.
okay,
So, yeah.
thank you. That helps to know what
Yeah.
we're talking about. Super.
And
Very
and you can imagine
complicated.
the complexities of that, right? Because you can't
Ah.
really, you know, tell your police or your fire department to stand down for 6 months while you build a new location for them. So you have to phase all this construction and move folks around into other areas, relocate them while you're doing that. And all these departments need to keep providing services while that's happening. So
Absolutely.
that was another big challenge, I think, for a lot of the firms, was to think through how you phase a project like that, and how you do that construction when you have to keep the doors open and keep serving the public.
Right.
Mhm.
Do any of you guys remember, like, as a kid, there were these like really chintzy little plastic game, like little square games, and it had like 29 squares and one blank square.
Yeah.
You had to like
Yeah.
slide them around. You had to
Yes.
put the numbers in order from 1 to 30, but you could
29.
before you could move one, you had to move another, and you had to like make space for where you were going to put it. I think about this in this project, it's going to be just the complexity of keeping everything moving and operating while you're building it, just, hey, yeah.
Building a
Mm.
bicycle while you're riding it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
even for materials handling, it's going to be a challenge, because it's not like there's a ton of space on site for, stashing building materials, putting, outdoor trailers,
Oh,
and
staging
heavy
areas.
equipment and stuff,
Brains and yeah.
Wow, I hadn't thought of that.
My
The dog
goodness.
for a while.
Mm.
I'm exhausted. Just thinking about it.
But
Ah.
it's kind of a fascinating committee to serve on for that reason, because
Yeah.
it is a real challenge. And, I was pleased that the mayor asked me to serve, and happy to step up and volunteer for that reason. So
I was
Yeah,
pleased that you said yes. The mayor invited me out to coffee and asked me to be on this committee, and I said, "Oh, Mary, I don't think you understand. I'm not your person. I don't think you know who you're dealing with. I'm not the expertise here. You need Ken Walls. He is the expert. I can do some other stuff, but not this stuff. That's way above my expertise. Like, you need to get Ken." So yeah, we're so lucky to have you. That's fabulous. Yeah.
well, it's a pretty strong committee. There's a lot of very smart people on that committee.
Yes. And a lot of a combination of former firefighters and law enforcement, current and just cool stuff, really cool stuff.
No, there's a lot of, considerations that I hadn't even really thought about prior to serving on that committee. But, from a diversity and equity standpoint,
Right.
we have way more female firefighters and police officers
Yeah.
now, and will in
Yeah.
the future, than they did in the past, right?
Right.
So how do you go about designing locker rooms and changing rooms and things like that? When you also need to have common spaces for the team together as well, then there's a whole science to how they go about designing those spaces now, which is kind of interesting to learn. So
I thought it was also fascinating in more than one of the presentations talked about, the need to take care of our firefighters and our first responders' mental health.
Yeah.
And just the things that they see. And let's provide sort of like, quiet, rejuvenation type, spaces where they can go and unwind and have silence, or maybe places where they can talk to each other, just be together with people and talk through some of the awful things that they just witnessed,
The current fire station is a lot of windowless rooms.
yeah, right, which is exactly not where you want to put somebody after they've just been through a traumatic experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is really going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, when they finish the construction project, it'll be a tremendous addition to the community for sure. It'll really position Monona for the next 50, 75 years. So,
Yeah.
So we just hope we get it right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, with you on the committee, we will get it right. I'm so
No second
thrilled.
chances on that one.
So thrilled to have you there.
Well, so long as we don't discover a sinkhole underneath our
Oh,
property,
my Lord.
we're doing well.
Has everyone in the room heard about this? Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have all heard about the issues they had in McFarland with their
No.
there. Oh man.
So Kristen McFarland just built this amazing net zero building. And then something happened. I don't know, water moving under the earth. I don't know how a sinkhole happens, but
That's tragic.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it was
this
a
actually
greenfield site.
very recent that they discovered this.
Yes,
hear about it.
yes, yes.
Yeah, and it's like 75 feet deep underneath the slab of the garage.
Oh, God.
Yeah, like I forget how many, I can't even remember how many cement trucks worth of
Mhm.
cement they poured underneath there to fill the thing.
So it was deep enough that the equipment that they would have used, like the sonar or whatever they used to look into the earth, it didn't detect it, you know, before they built this whole building. It's, yeah,
Oh, that's really, that is tragic.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And during the interviews with these, you know, finalists, more than, was it 2 of them? One of the questions was, describe a challenging project and how you handled it. And both of them said, well, right down the road from y'all, there's a pretty big challenge going on. Yeah, a sinkhole. Who would have thought?
Yeah, there were 2 contractors, and that the cost of that is soared to over $1 million at this point, and I'm
Wow.
not sure if they're still totally done fixing it. So
Yeah.
um,
Well, still, I think it's gonna be half of what we're paying. Or somewhere like that.
Yeah,
McFarland was
McFarland
like,
had open space to build on, yeah.
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 Well, we'll see. A lot of bake sales in our futures.
A lot of meat raffles.
That's better for Wisconsin. There you go. A meat raffle. All right. Thor, did you have anything that you wanted to add? There is a space on the agenda for, you know, updates.
Yeah, real quick, it's just that the GTLC reporting is due at the end of the month, so Brad and I are working hard on that. And then we'll have all the data, then we'll finally be able to make the dashboard for 2022. I know we're pretty behind on that, but that's just because of there was such a delay in the GTLC new tool going active, so we were waiting.
Yep.
We didn't want to duplicate any data collection and reporting efforts.
Yeah. Green tiered legacy community, for those that may not know GTLC.
Hmm.
So,
Can I ask something?
please.
I was wondering, when you put up the ordinance for the sustainability committee, I was wondering if we might want to add another person to the committee and have 9.
I
The
agree.
quorum would be the same.
I agree.
And I think there was like a waiting list of people who wanted to get
Why don't
involved.
we, let's talk to the mayor about that. I have suggested it before. I would
Oh,
love
okay.
to revisit that conversation.
And I was wondering about if people like the idea, we can talk about it next month, but just to get people thinking about moving the time up for the meeting. If people like that idea, I would definitely like it.
Yeah,
To 5:30.
I would
Oh.
like it also. We would need to move it to a different day of the week in order for me to, I have back-to-back meetings on Thursday.
Oh, I see.
I have a
Okay.
community media meeting from, 5 to 6 and then this from 6 to, yeah, so. Yeah,
Well, maybe we can come up with some recommendations and
okay,
see what the committee thinks.
yes,
I'd definitely agree with the idea of adding an
Yes.
extra member. It would help us for meetings when we have trouble making a quorum.
yes,
Right.
I agree.
And I like the idea of moving it up an hour too. It just helped me put my kids to bed at night. So
Me too. Absolutely, me too. And
Days
part of
get-
the thing is also our meetings tend to go really long.
Yeah.
So tightening that up would be helpful. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Cool.
being a little more whip cracking, I can make these meetings go faster. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move. I'll
Looks
second.
like we have a first and a second right there, Ken and Rick. Awesome. All in favor?
I,
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
It's really
Thank
wonderful.
you.
to see everyone.
see
Bye,
you all next
everybody.
time.
Bye.
Bye.